Hello, I'm Nick Hixson. I've been a chartered accountant for 30 plus years. We work with small businesses, specialising in helping SMEs to grow and thrive with an emphasis on strategy and innovation, which we're developing some ideas through doctoral research, some online tools to help you make better decisions. So today, how do you make good decisions when you don't know enough about the technical bits, the marketing, the finance, etc., or you just don't have enough data? So this is to help you understand better what numbers mean or don't mean by helping you challenge what you think about what you know. So business owners and managers in all sizes of business will be helped by this, we hope, though it's set in a small business context. You should be able to avoid common pitfalls and understand valuable quick tools for assessing and improving your outcomes. We all make assumptions about numbers based on criteria other than numbers. Here's an example. A room of 95 lawyers and 5 paediatricians. Janet likes children and science. What is she? Probably a lawyer. If only 10% of lawyers like children and science, that's more than all the paediatricians. It's called the base rate fallacy. We don't relate the numbers we have to the data. We make an assumption from other information we're given. Here's an example closer to home. You want to raise your prices by 5%. Will you lose any customers, and if so, how many? People say, if I lose 5%, I may as well not bother. But assuming you're selling goods at, say, 50% profit, you need to lose over 9% of customers before you lose money, because you also buy less product. This is the bit that most people forget. It's not just one number that changes, it's at least 2. There may be other considerations, which customers you might lose, for example, but this extra understanding about the numbers informs and improves your decision. Let's look at what you know, as opposed to what you only think you know. Here's a famous experiment in the 1930s in Chicago, Enrico Fermi. His physics undergraduates. How many piano tuners are there, he asked, in a population of about 3 million in Chicago? You work through this sort of logic. Population 3 million, average number in a household to give the number of households, percentage of households with pianos, how many times a year would you tune a piano, how many pianos can a piano tuner tune in a day, and you'd solve a little equation, whether you made an equation or not. Asking the undergrads, got this set of answers. Average household 2 to 3, percentage with pianos 10 to 3%, big variation. How many times a year? Probably 1. Number times tuned per day? Probably 4. Number of working days in the year? Probably 250. And the main uncertainty there is that percentage of households with pianos, because that gives you a range of solutions of 180 to 1800, an average of 990. The problem is that the average can be seriously affected by any of the ranges, but in particular this percentage with pianos, because it's so great. So you don't get a symmetrical shape, which an average depends on, and that may badly impact your decision. So, what to do? Here's help from the rule of 5, simple stats. Use only 5 random participants, not the whole class. Their answers will produce a median which is 93.75% certain to be within the highest and lowest values. The median has half the population above it and half below, and you find it by taking the third value in the range, like this. If the average is 22334, the third value works down 43322, so it's 3. Similarly with the percentage with pianos, the third value out of 103576 is 6. The number of times per year, the third value is 1, because the values were 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. The numbers tuned per day, the values were 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, so it's 4. And the number of working days, people gave answers 250, 240, 230, 240, 250, so the third value is 240 in the range. And that gives you an average then, if you solve the little equation, of 562. That's significantly different from the 990 average, because the median accounts for a non-symmetrical curve. Let's give you some context at last. I sell tuning forks. Shall I put a salesman into Chicago? I know his salary, the travel costs, I know the cost of producing a tuning fork, so it's easy to work out how many he has to sell. So all I need to do is work out what the number isn't to make a sensible decision. Is it significantly more or less than 562? I don't actually need to know how many piano tuners there are exactly, because that won't match my decision. If I match this against the average, the 990, I might come up with a totally different decision than if I matched it against the rule of 5 answer of 562. The rule of 5 seems the safer bet, and you can use that in many ways. You can think of lots. So now you know to sense check the numbers against other criteria that they might be using inadvertently, and the benefits of the rule of 5 method. And you don't always need to know the absolute number, just what it isn't, to make a better decision. Yet to come, how to make better decisions with minimal information, but making sure you sense check which rules you're using and why. And in the meantime, I put all this information in a PDF, which you can download from the website.